Let's make a character. Let's take one part Disney ingenuity, one part Final Fantasy drama, and a dash of the Sixth Sense, and you get one of the most prolific crossover characters of all time. Today is all about Sora, the wielder of friendship. We're looking over his development, lore, and legacy on this week's Hero Unlocked. Sharpen your keyblades, folks. It's gonna be a doozy. One of the most important things in business is compromise. When one person wants one thing and the other wants something else, it can oftentimes be best to meet in the middle. And this is how Sora came to be. In the video game space, this is a tale as old as time. Designed by Tetsuya Nomura, Sora became the protagonist of a collaborative project between Disney and Square Enix. But this wasn't always the idea. Over on Disney's side, Donald Duck was pitched to be the lead of the game, while on Square's side, Mickey Mouse was pitched. This clearly presented a problem, so Nomura took pen to paper and put together a concept for a character that would be a cross between both worlds. And we were given what we have come to know as Sora. Taking the obvious anime style of Final Fantasy and utilizing Mickey Mouse's gloves, red shorts, and yellow shoes, a classic video game icon was born. A Disney icon at that. That's right, all original content, both characters and locations, are all owned by Disney. Because honestly, what don't they own?
So, Kingdom Hearts would appear to be the deranged fever dream of an insane person. The idea that anime and Disney characters together in the same sentence, it's just...
But it's the craziest thing is that it works. It honestly works, like, really well.
It's literally just combining the two worst fan bases into one group of degenerates.
So the next question is, how does one name such a franchise? Well, it might actually be a little less prophetic than you probably hoped for. You see, while working on the game, Nomura thought about Disney as an amusement center, the various parks being the primary source of inspiration for the name, Animal Kingdom in particular. However, Nomura was actually unable to secure any intellectual rights for something as simple as Kingdom, so because the game centered around hearts, the two became one, and voila, Kingdom Hearts. Kingdom Hearts released in September of 2002 in America, and came out swinging like Tarzan. And that's the last one, I promise. The game was a critical darling. It was praised for its story, graphics, and gameplay. What's more, people of all ages were gravitating towards the game, but nowhere more than children. The Disney characters were obvious magnets for the audience. What's more, when you connect with an audience at that age, it means that you get to grow up with that franchise. This makes for fans who stay fans as they grow older. This is why Nintendo has the fan base that it does. Speaking of Nintendo, the next game in the franchise was actually a bit of a bridge, a Lion King 1.5 if you will. It was meant to bridge the gap between Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2, and it took place on the Game Boy Advance, of all places. The game took a drastic turn as far as gameplay development goes. The game no longer worked the same way as the first game. This time, the game took an isometric point of view outside of the battles, while having a card-based action game take place for the battles. Like, imagine if someone came up to you and said, "Hey, let's play War, but while we're playing War, I'm gonna throw apples at your head while you play." This should get you relatively close to how the battle system worked. A fun little side figure here is that the development of this card battle system inspired another game that we would call the cousin of Final Fantasy and Kingdom Hearts, The World Ends With You. There are actually quite a few Kingdom Hearts games that came to Nintendo systems. While many of these games were spin-offs, it's important to note that they contain story elements that fit into the lore. To get the complete story in full, you'd most likely need to play all of the games. And since that's the case, that means you'd need at least 4 game systems in order to get the full story. Next, we'll talk about Kingdom Hearts 2, often considered the best game in the series. Kingdom Hearts 2 was released in March of 2006 in the United States. This game was a very natural progression for the franchise. Much like many other sequels, Sora began his journey without any of his powers, a premise explained in Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories. You know, that card game we were talking about before. Kingdom Hearts 2 included a new camera system that placed the camera on the right stick for better control. What's more, the worlds from live-action Disney movies were also added, so there's that. This game also featured a lot more Mickey Mouse. This was a primary request of the development staff, as it was something they wanted to do in the first game. Now, with Disney's permission, they were able to add even more of the iconic mouse to the project.
You know, I've actually seen some Heartless in our world.
What? Mm-hmm. Like at a comic book convention or something?
No, my friend. Congress.
Kingdom Hearts is basically a Final Fantasy game's Disney-obsessed best friend, so you can assume that the lore is pretty out there and full of minor events and characters. So I'm going to do my best to summarize the main 2 games. One fateful night on the peaceful Destiny Islands, its residents were attacked by evil creatures known as the Heartless. Because of this attack, Sora and his friends Riku and Kairi were separated. While separated, Sora comes in contact with a very powerful weapon known as the Keyblade. This is a weapon used to fight off the Heartless. Sora then drifts through space and arrives in Traverse Town. Traverse Town is where he meets Donald and Goofy, who are sent to look for a key through a message from their missing king, Mickey. So the three group up and set out to find the missing members of their lives. This means traveling to different worlds in the Disney universe in order to use the Keyblades to seal them off from the Heartless. However, all is not sunshine and rainbows. This is Disney we're talking about, so there's gotta be villains. The main Disney villain in all of this epic nonsense is Maleficent from Sleeping Beauty. Maleficent leads a group of villains, including Riku, in a quest to find the Princesses of Heart. They need these princesses in order to find Kingdom Hearts. This is essentially the place that grants access to all hearts. Now, Riku was part of her ploy because she has convinced him that Sora didn't care about him anymore. After reaching Maleficent's base, however, the Keyblade is taken from Sora by Riku. Riku then finds out that he himself was actually supposed to be the wielder of the blade. Sora had accidentally-ish gotten it, so yeah. Now, because Donald and Goofy were explicitly told to follow the key, they leave Sora and follow Riku. But Sora wasn't having any of that. And very soon after a speech about friendship, Donald and Goofy return to Sora, and thusly the Keyblade does too, because it's like sentient, or part sentient, or something. Sora and his friends then defeat Maleficent. But there's this other dude, Ansem, who's been pulling the strings all along. We find out that Kairi was actually a Princess of Heart, because of course she was. After some super climactic boss nonsense, the door to Kingdom Hearts is opened and actually destroys Ansem, revealing Mickey and Riku. In Kingdom Hearts 2, we see that the Heartless are still causing problems. While fighting these creatures, Sora runs into a new group known as Organization 13. We also find out that Kairi was kidnapped by the organization. After reuniting with Mickey, Sora and the gang learn that Ansem from the previous title wasn't really Ansem, it was Xehanort, which is a really, really obnoxious name. However, it's actually an anagram for no heart, with an X at the beginning for flavor. Xehanort was actually an apprentice of Ansem and stole his identity. Once Sora reaches the organization homeworld, he finds Kairi as well as Riku. We then meet the real Ansem, who promptly blows himself up as a form of atonement for his search for vengeance. On top of a castle somewhat near the ruins, Sora and his gang meet up and defeat Xemnas. Afterward, cue the changing boss music because he's not really dead. They fight him again and finally beat him, only to find themselves trapped in the realm of darkness. But a letter in a bottle washes up, and Sora and Riku are teleported home. Back on the island, the two are presented with a letter that lead the three to believe that they aren't done doing anime stuff. Which they aren't, because the third game's coming out soon.
Curious, what were these guys even thinking when they were designing the weapon? What's the best we can think of, guys? We have swords, guns, knives, maybe even a baseball bat? But no, a freaking key. Ah, what was that?
A key.
Sora is undoubtedly one of the most recognizable anime figures in gaming. While not the focal point of every game in the series, he's definitely the focal point of the series. His story has inspired and enthralled millions of gamers for years. Also, he's voiced by Haley Joel Osment, so I mean, you know, that's pretty cool. The series he's from has sold millions of copies and on average posted extremely well when it comes to review scores. The really interesting thing about the series is that Sora seems to grow up with his fan base, and that's something that really connects with the audience. And with fans waiting for the release of the third title just around the corner, we can be sure that Sora is going to be entertaining both adults and children for years to come. All of this makes for a hero who is going to stay in our minds, and of course, our hearts, forever. Thanks for watching.
Thank you guys so much for watching.
And if you guys like the content, please let us know by hitting like and commenting below.
And don't forget to subscribe because we do this every week. Stay perfect.